I came to many lives, many times one, on a windy evening when deadlines felt less frightening than the sense that I was sprinting without moving. A friend said, "Read it like an adventure. Don't rush to believe, don't rush to dismiss." I kept that advice like a small key in my pocket. I didn't open the book to hunt for the supernatural. I opened it to see which part of me the story might touch. From the first pages, I realized this wasn't a book demanding that one kneel before metaphysical certainties. It was a patient conversation about trial and learning, an invitation to let the reader do their own seeing. What disarmed me first was the calm, lucid voice. Thomas, the central figure, isn't carved as a saint. He's distinctly human, confused at times, mistaken, humbled by experience. Because he is very human, I felt my own armor lower. The narrative moves back and forth across eras, sometimes rooted in the busy present, sometimes in memories that seem to echo from a far shore. I can't claim to know how much of that is historically verifiable. What kept me reading was the feeling that I was being listened to rather than lectured. That, to me, is a rare tone. Karma appears in these pages not as a cosmic carrot and stick, but as a refined learning mechanism. Every choice is a seed, every word a trace of light or shadow. Given time, the field returns what we sow. When I took this seriously, my habitual "why is this happening to me?" softened into "what wants to be learned here?" My reflex to blame circumstances or some faceless fate weakened. What came into focus were the things within reach. The intention I set before acting, the way I respond when pride is nicked, the everyday habits that build or erode a life, adding a kindness, withholding a needless jab. Then the book walks beyond the border of the self. It speaks of collective karma like a river fed by countless streams, shopping patterns, online flare-ups, small ethical shortcuts in the workplace. I examined my own reflexes, justifying an unnecessary purchase as "I deserve it," firing off a caustic comment for a fleeting win, ignoring a small breach because everyone does it. In the long view of cause and effect, I was not an observer standing outside the times. I was a participant adding dust to the shared air. That realization didn't make me grim. It made me practical. I chose a few small but steady shifts. Separating my trash instead of telling myself, "tomorrow," taking 3 breaths before sending a thorny email, finishing an article before forming a verdict. The most contentious chapters are those about lost civilizations. The evidence-minded part of me did sit up skeptically, but I asked myself a prior question. Even if I treat these as parable, what are they pointing toward in our current life? I heard a simple but cutting message. When technological power grows faster than inner maturity, self-destruction is not fantasy. Read as metaphor, those chapters become a quiet mirror. They do not scold. They reflect our mixture of arrogance and fear baked into modern decisions, from how we chase scale to how we justify collateral damage. The book also shaped how I understand free will. There is no claustrophobic fatalism here. On the contrary, every page keeps reminding me that, however small, there is always a gap in which to choose. If today's fruit cannot be changed at once, I can still plant new seed. That recognition loosened the learned helplessness that adulthood quietly teaches. Instead of trying to reinvent my life overnight and then crashing into disappointment, I began with simple practices: 10 minutes of morning stillness to check the day's intention, 10 minutes at night to name one thing I'm grateful for, 1 plant-based meal day per week as a training of appetite. Done steadily, these small acts revealed that calm isn't a static mood, but a homing movement I can return to again and again when life tilts. The book made me care about the frequency of thoughts and words. We often treat language as retractable. We say we can take it back, but every sound we release is a seed. The right encouragement is like a small roof someone can stand under. A sarcastic quip can be a stone thrown into the lake whose ripples take a long time to settle. I've tried a plain technique: 3 breaths before I respond. At work, at home, online. No one becomes saintly because I pause, but I start fewer fires. I stop manufacturing needless karma with sparks I didn't notice before. Compassion, in my experience of this book, is not softness. It is a form of intelligence that views people within the long rhythm of learning, not just through a single misstep. When I believe that everyone is wrestling with a lesson of their own, I judge less and persevere more. Compassion doesn't cool my resolve. It extends its endurance because I'm no longer burning my fuel in the heat of quick victories or righteous outrage. I didn't read the book with blind faith either. I kept a gentle boundary of discernment, the ethical universals, responsibility, restraint, kindness, I apply without delay. The fantastical narrative pieces I accept as symbol, if not as history. The sweeping forecasts I note as cautionary markers rather than sources of anxiety. This layered approach let me walk through the contentious parts without getting stuck in a panicked hunt for true or false, while also avoiding a sentimental surrender to everything that moved me. The book's influence on my day-to-day has not been dramatic. It lands like fine-tuning. I step half a beat slower in busy hours and ask, what is my intention, before a hard conversation. I choose clarity when faced with a decision that might benefit me while wounding the group. In consumption, I keep a 48-hour buffer before buying anything non-essential. Waiting has a way of revealing that many needs are just impulses named too grandly. In relationships, I try to swap "I think" with "I might be wrong, help me see what I'm missing." It's remarkable how much room that single sentence creates. If I had to name what I most value in many lives, many times, one, it would be the bridge it builds between Eastern insight and modern tempo, without flattening nuance into slogans. It doesn't force the reader to swear allegiance to the unverifiable. It coaxes us to live better through principles that can be tested today. One less act of vanity, one more act of gratitude, one less cutting remark, one more generous word, one less demand that others change, one more acceptance of responsibility for what I can choose. Closing the book, I didn't become enlightened. I simply felt a little lighter, because I blamed less, a little clearer, because I understood that every thought lays a tile on tomorrow's road, and a little steadier, because I no longer treat tomorrow as a threat, but as the organic result of seeds I plant now. I still have moments of discouragement and slide into old grooves. When that happens, I come back to a simple question. What seed am I sowing? The question doesn't solve everything, but it brings me to the ground where I can take the next step. A small decision, a gentle gesture, a deeper breath. In that sense, the book's most radical claim is modest, that the universe is more ordered than it looks, and that we are less helpless than we fear. We don't need a grand theory to begin. We need a different rhythm of attention, one that notices the interior nudge before the exterior noise takes over, one that prizes intention as much as outcome, one that trusts the long arc without waiting for a perfect mood. If I measure the book by changes that can be felt in a single ordinary day, it succeeds. I speak more carefully, I want less, I practice beginning again. Perhaps that is all a good book must do, return us to ourselves in a way that makes goodness practical. Not romantic goodness, not brittle perfection, but a sturdier decency that survives rush hours, difficult emails, and crowded rooms. A decency that is willing to slow down, to breathe, to apologize, to start over. From there, it's easier to believe that karma is not a cosmic bureaucracy, but a patient school. That collective karma can be altered by 1,000 micro-habits lived consistently. That compassion is not weakness, but a high form of clarity. That free will is not a myth, but a narrow doorway we are invited to walk through again and again. And if I can remember that much on a common Tuesday, then for me, Many Lives, Many Times One has done its quiet, necessary work,